Okay, we're back for another Coach's Corner, and you guys haven't disappointed. We've got a great selection of questions, but make sure you keep sharing any that you might have. You can do it using the hashtag GTN Coach's Corner, and that can be either at the bottom of this video or in any other videos that you might see, or even our social media. So let's get stuck in. We've got Jamie Furham with this first one. What clothes or gear do you recommend for different distance triathlons?
Well, tri-suits are brilliant. They should cover all bases, really. If you get one that fits well, is comfortable, fine for everything, really. But, of course, that's not to say you have to stick to the tri-suit. If you're doing a long distance triathlon, you might want to change out your clothes between each discipline. Just go for whatever's comfortable. You could start in a pair of Speedos if you want, and then on the bike, switch into bike kit, and then on the run, switch to running kit. And in fact, some pros even do that today.
Yeah, I mean, I did when the 2 Ironman races I did, I wore a pair of tri-shorts. So I used them for all 3 disciplines, but then I put a cycling jersey on, then I put a running vest top on. And I've seen even the likes of Susie Cheetham used to put run kit on, didn't she? So I think maybe more for the longer distance events, but if you can find the right tri-suit, it does take out that worry.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know you're going to be comfy, but
and then there are other things to consider as well. Socks or no socks. As you go up in distance, you probably are going to want to consider wearing socks, but it's more if you're going for those shorter distances, also considering not wearing socks if you want to save a few seconds here and there. So I'd normally suggest Olympic distance and below, no socks, and socks for anything above that. But if you want to wear socks for every distance, also absolutely fine.
And then even for the cycle, you might, if you're doing a really long cycle, you might want to put socks on. And you might be wearing bike shoes for longer distance stuff as opposed to tri-shoes on shorter, if you've got that luxury of chopping and changing. But there's no one size fits all, and what the pros do, they do everything for the utmost performance and for time, whereas comfort does play a big part in triathlon.
We're a very accepting sport. You can wear whatever you want, as long as it's within the rules. Next question from Tiger Taco. Any suggestions on alternatives to running while dealing with injury? I have multiple tears in my calf.
Ouch.
And running is my worst sport. So I'm afraid of a major loss of fitness whilst waiting for things to heal.
Oh God, it's so frustrating. I mean, sounds like you are a triathlete, so I imagine you're doing some swimming and cycling anyway, and that's often how a lot of runners come into triathlon. So you're lucky that you've got those 2 sports, and your fitness, it'll feel like it's just disappearing, but you will get it back sooner than you realise when you've already had that base before. But see it as time to work on other aspects. You can be really running specific if you want. So you can do some aqua jogging, which I've spent years doing in the past. I don't know if you have it. It's the most frustrating thing, and it's hard to prove how much it actually correlates back to running. And depending on what level of recovery your calf's at, you've got options such as the elliptical trainer, or maybe even the stepper if that action doesn't hurt your calf. But then look at doing some other strengthening exercises for your legs, and you can do some squatting maybe, and anything that's going to be sort of getting you stronger and actually will help when you do get back to running. So try to see this time as like an opportunity rather than looking at the negative, because being injured can be really quite depressing, can't it?
And also just to maybe make you feel a little bit better, even top elite runners and triathletes include aqua jogging in their training when they're not injured, and even cycling when they're not injured, because of the benefits of them and improving strength and almost that cross training with cycling. So it's not the end of the world.
Exactly, really, and work on your core and things like that, so when you do come back you won't get any other niggles, and you never know, in the long term you might end up being a stronger runner. So take the positives.
Great stuff. On to the next one. We've actually got a couple of questions in a similar vein here. Another one from Jamie Furman. How do you suggest effectively structuring a break period? This is something I really struggle with, since I love the process just as much as the results. Similar one from Tiago Silva. Why is taking an off-season so important? Why can't you simply train all year long to maintain your fitness? A break in your training or the season is so important for a number of reasons, physical and mental. I mean, obviously just the process of training day in, day out for an entire year is quite a big stress on the body, and at some point your body just needs a bit of time to just recover, rest, adapt, reset, but also mentally as well is such a big thing. I normally suggest just factoring in at least a couple of weeks at the end of the season after your last big race of the year. But that's also not to say that you can't take a week partway through the year if it suits, and just to kind of break things up again, that just mental recharge.
Yeah, totally. And it's about having that opportunity to just maybe if you're someone who's so goal driven, have another goal for a few weeks and, make that you're still achieving something in that time, whatever that goal is, something totally different to triathlon, but use those extra hours you've got in the day to kind of finish up some work you had going on at home or something like that. But also when, maybe those 2 weeks totally easy, but then the next 2 weeks after that, I would recommend still just not really being focused or goal driven at all, but start getting back into sport and make it social. So go for those coffee rides or go for a run with a friend who normally you would think maybe they're too slow to run with or something, and just enjoy actually running. And it's not training, but you're still starting to just get back in gently.
Yeah, and I think the big worry, and this is a big topic, a lot of people worry that they're going to lose their fitness. And yes, you will to a degree. Over a couple of weeks, you lose a little bit of fitness, but that's really important. And actually, if you were just to carry on training year in, year out with no break periods, you will, and I'm saying you will, plateau at some point. And we see this so often, even with the pro athletes. They carry on through, they feel in good form, they don't want to let go, and then they get through to February, March time, and they start burning out, and before the actual race season. So it's really important you do that to avoid that plateau. And yes, you're going to start back feeling a little bit unfit, but actually the gains can
It's quite rewarding, isn't it, that time coming back? You feel like, I remember those first few sessions, you're like, oh my God, how am I ever going to get back there? But it's so satisfying because you see that improvement quite quickly, and then you're sort of back to where you were, but feeling so much fresher and hungry as well. You've got that hunger.
Yeah, that's really important. Fantastic. Next one from Sinan Setikaya, I think that's how you say it. This is a really good question, actually. I'm seriously affected by hot weather. I'm struggling to keep even my jog run pace in 35 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius weather, which is very hot. He says it's unbearable. How do triathletes adapt their bodies to heat? I'm thinking of replacing my running workouts with cycling when it's hot. Will this change negatively affect my running performance?
Oh my goodness, well that is extremely hot, and I've had a little bit of experience of running in that heat recently over the summer out in Japan. But it depends, I guess, what your goal is. Are you going to be competing in that heat? Because if so, then you do need to a certain amount adapt your body so that you're getting used to that heat. And whether that's small things like at home, if you do have air conditioning, I imagine if you're living in that temperature, then maybe raise the overall temperature you spend most of your time in, so your body is more used to it. But also, if you want to get some quality sessions in, you're going to need to look at the time of day and can you go out earlier and try and get your run in? Because if you do just replace all your running with cycling, yeah, of course it's going to affect your performance. That's just natural if you're not doing those runs. But equally, if you're only doing slow runs because you're finding it so hard, that will have a bit of a knock-on effect. So try to do them earlier in the day when it might be cooler. Or if you've got access to a gym and a treadmill for those quality sessions, you can go and do those in a cooler environment, but then you're doing the majority of your easy stuff, or what should feel easy in that heat. So it's a matter of working out what your goal is with this as well when you're trying to sort of survive in those temperatures.
Yeah, and when you are training in those temperatures, if you do have to, forgetting about the pace a little bit and just focusing on the effort, the RPE, perceived effort of exertion, rather than that pace that you ordinarily would do. But yeah.
And of course, hydration as well, but I'm sure you're already doing that if you're in those conditions. But I will just say, if it makes you feel any better, I was going for runs out in Japan and I just stopped looking at the pace because I was like, and it was so flat, so I had no excuse, couldn't say it's hilly. I was just shuffling along and it felt so hard. And then a couple of days we had some rain, and I felt amazing. And suddenly I was like, I can still run. So don't be disheartened by your times as well. That's what I would say.
Good stuff. On to a techie question now from Anton Kempen said, more and more bike brands are delivering their aero road bikes with integrated cockpits. For these cockpits, there are usually no clip-on bars available. Is it still worth looking around for bikes which come with a standard road handlebar, or just go for a bike with an integrated cockpit and ride with your hands on the drops? Yes, you're absolutely right. And this is actually a bit of an ongoing issue. Yes, road bikes are obviously being built and designed for road cycling rather than triathlon. So they're coming more and more so with these aero handlebars, which, you can't get many or any, from my knowledge, aero bars or clip-on aero bars that are going to fit these because they are all different shapes and sizes. I believe some brands out there, Giant maybe one, have done one set of aero bars or clip-on aero bars that will fit with those handlebars. But you're going to have to check with each brand as you're buying them. Check before you buy the bike. I would probably suggest if you are thinking of doing triathlon, and that's definitely a focus for you, looking at bikes where you can get the standard handlebars on them or swapping them out. But yeah, it's a really tricky one.
It is a tricky one, isn't it? Because you want to get something that's the most aero for everyday riding, but as a result, you're then potentially less aero than you could be in a triathlon with a non-aero bike because you can put the tripod on.
Just riding around on the drops on a triathlon, I would say, isn't the fastest. If you can swap out and get clip-on aero bars on, it's a good idea.
Cool. Right, next question comes from Paul HS. Got my first triathlon in 2 weeks. We might be a bit late on this one, I hope not, but do you put chamois cream on before the swim, or does it just wash off? Or do you have to just make do without it on race day?
Personally, I've never put chamois cream on, no matter the distance of the race. I'm not sure what it would do.
I feel like you'd end up foaming once you're onto the bike. It might be a little,
I feel like chamois cream is it would probably wash away. But I do use other lubricants without divulging too much, but I put them in places that I suspect might rub.
So very British and diplomatic there, but yes.
There's no way of
maybe
really
have your own lubricant for those parts. But hopefully, if you have done your triathlon, you didn't have any rubbing and you didn't have any foaming, and all is going to be good with that. But yeah, make sure you've tried your kit before the day as well, because obviously you're going to be in a tri-suit, not your cycling shorts, and it's designed to be, it's a different design, so it's going to potentially rub in different places as well. So you just make sure you know where those areas could be.
Yeah, nice and crude.
Yeah.
On to the next one. Marge 360 on race day. Is it better to stick to a pace plan or to respond to how your body feels that day? Thanks. You guys are awesome.
Oh, well, we love you too. Well, you have a race plan. Yeah, that's a great idea. But you need to have plan A, plan B, and maybe plan C, because there's so many factors that come into play, especially in a triathlon. We've got 3 sports, and you're trying to ingest food and you're trying to make sure you've got your training right for that. So have an open mind, but having that, the first plan in your head is a really good idea, so you know where you're starting at. But don't be disheartened at the first thing that doesn't go wrong. And if to start with you might be off the pace, then listen to your body to a certain extent, because you can't force it to happen. And sometimes if you do try and force it at the beginning and saying, I'm not hitting these numbers, I've got to get there, that could end your race, or could make the last bit of your race be really quite painful, because you've gone when you haven't when you didn't have that ability to. Whereas if you do back off a tiny bit and listen to your body, you might just be warming up, or you might be going through a bad patch. And marathon running as well, you'll go through that bad patch and sometimes you can come back out the other side. So it's about being flexible, I would say. Yeah,
I haven't really got much more to add to that. I was literally going to say, I've seen so many pros who have come from the back of the field having started off feeling really rubbish, and they've even said, I thought today was over for me. And then they suddenly come through to podium or win a race. So yeah, it's not all over, but as Heather said, going with an open mind, maybe have different paces or powers that you can ride at in different circumstances or scenarios.
Yeah, and also have different goals. There's someone, I think I was watching or listening to something recently, and they were saying, well, I didn't reach goal A, but that wasn't the end of the day, because I still had other things I wanted to, whether it's a process of like, I want to make sure I get my shoes on this quickly in transition, or I want to eat this amount on my race. So if you've got loads of little goals, you'll still finish with, an achievement. It's not just about an end time.
Yeah, and one thing also has helped me in the past is when you obviously we all go in with an A goal, and when you realise that maybe isn't going to happen, is then actually focusing on other smaller things, maybe your technique or little things. So it takes your mind off the fact that, oh my God, I'm not achieving this pace or this goal that I was going to do, and actually you focus on these other things, and that gets you through, and before you know it, you might come out of the other side and actually do well. So really good question, and all of them are fantastic today. As always, keep sending them in using that hashtag GTN Coaches Corner. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe down below.